Okay, great. So, hello everyone, and welcome again to this Thursday night, this talk at Mountain Cloud on December 3rd, 2020. Here we are, moving toward the winter light, nesting in the space between Thanksgiving and Rohatsu, midway between our original Love 4 retreat and the winter solstice retreat in 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, we ended that 4-day retreat with a sort of duo dharma talk that Henry and I offered on a seminal koan, Manchushri's Gate to the One and Only. Seminal because it presents, well, in a nutshell, a climactic scene from the Vimalakirti Sutra. An atomic nutshell. Seminal because it transcends any possibility of a divided world by presenting, plunging us into the thunderous silence of Vimalakirti's sitting. Silence that reverberates, we say, throughout space and time. Silence manifesting right here, now. You are an instance of it. So as a reminder, or for those who may not have been at our last retreat, here's the question put first to the 32,000 bodhisattvas who are visiting Vimalakirti in his 10 by 10 foot sick room. Then to Manchushri, bodhisattva of great wisdom, and finally to the deeply awakened layperson, Vimalakirti. What is the bodhisattva's entering the dharma-gate of non-duality? One translation. Or how will you enter the dharma-gate of not two? After a long procession of bodhisattva explanations culminating in Manchushri's response, all turn to Vimalakirti. The sutra says, Vimalakirti remained silent. That's it. So bright and clear, so all-pervading. In the sutra, 5,000 members of the assembly experience Vimalakirti's silence and immediately enter the gate of not two. In the next chapter, it's time for lunch, and they celebrate with a feast. Coming from our virtual, modeled, safely distanced Thanksgivings, the celebration in the sutra makes anything seem possible. It's time to eat, but there's no food. Vimalakirti opens a portal to a world called many fragrances, the dwelling place of a great Buddha. According to the sutra, everything that appears there is but a fragrance. Here's one line. In that universe, all the houses, the avenues, the parks, and the palaces are made of various perfumes, and the fragrance of the food eaten by those bodhisattvas pervades immeasurable universes. It's a long story, but ultimately, a single bowl of fragrant rice is brought back to feed the throng gathered with Vimalakirti. 9 million mini fragrances bodhisattvas accompany the rice. Another 84,000 from the city where Vimalakirti lives are drawn by the aroma and by a deep sense of wonder, the sutra says, to join the feast. One bowl of rice. The bowl of rice, offered from the remains of the Buddha's meal, is a bowl of mercy, perfumed, the sutra says, with the fragrance of great compassion. All are fed, and the amount of rice is not depleted. About this scene, Joan Sutherland comments, "This is one of the moments the text reminds us of why we'd been drawn to take up Vimalakirti's impossible way, to partake of mercy, to share it with others, and to come to know as deeply as we know anything that it is inexhaustible." The impossible possibility. It's actually this way, right where we sit. So how can we realize it? How can we taste the rice and be sated in a way that the whole world is sated? This is a lead up to looking at another koan about receiving a meal and a teaching. It's Hekigan Roku 74, King Yu's rice bucket or rice pail. In this case, Master King Yu himself is serving the meal, dancing, laughing, and inviting us all to eat. So I'd like to read the instruction by Master Engo and the case. The instruction. Holding the sharpest sword straight out before him, he cuts through the nest of entanglements before its point. He hangs the bright mirror high, and in the midst of a phrase brings forth the seal of Vairocana. Where the heart field is most secret and intimate, he dons his robes and eats his food. Where heavenly powers have free play, how can there be any approaching? Have you understood? Look at the words below. The case. Before each meal, Master King Yu himself would bring the rice pail to the monk's hall, dance and laugh loudly, and say, "Little bodhisattvas, come and eat your rice." Secho said, there's this interjection, although he did it like that, he was not being kind. Later, a monk asked Choke, long ago a monk said, "Little bodhisattvas, come and eat your rice." What was his meaning? And Choke responds, That was a sword of grace before meals. So let's take a look at this instruction that just points to Kingyu's teaching. It points to this case. Holding the sharpest sword out before him, he cuts through the nest of entanglements before its point. There is Chinese and Japanese lore about this sharpest sword. The swordsmith has only to hold the sword out horizontally in front of her, and all vines and branches immediately give way. Just hold it. This is the sword of Mu. We may picture it as active, forceful, this sword that cuts through all our delusions, our concepts, our false sense of separation. But here the image is simply of holding, nothing but that, straight ahead. Hold it clear and still, and whatever touches it falls away. Everything falls. Mu is the sword that kills and gives life. The instruction points to Kingyu's skillful teaching, but this sword is in your hands. He hangs the bright mirror high, and in the midst of a phrase, brings forth the seal of Vairocana. This bright mirror reflects everything just as it is. Wherever you turn, that's it. Engo, again, is referring to Kingyu's presentation, but the bright mirror is necessarily about you and about now. Wherever you turn, that's you. Your own true face. Let the dust fall away, reflecting each thing exactly as it is. So Vairocana is a name for the absolute Buddha, or the absolute three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. A name for awakening. It's said that with this essential heart seal, a single word or gesture, Kingyu's laughter alone, can freely express the functioning of this entire universe, can freely express what Dogen calls life-death, or simply our life. Where the heart field is most intimate and peaceful, he dons his robes and eats his food. This is a vision of intimate peace, your heart of hearts. Joshu calls it the innermost recesses of the house. But Yamada Koan writes that even Shakyamuni Buddha has never seen it. Total emptiness. The boundless dynamism that cannot be seen, but that constantly functions in perfect freedom. Nothing at all, and yet here we are. What is this? This is the world King Yu presents, where he puts on his teaching robes, eats his meals, and invites us to join the feast. And what is the feast? Such freedom. Mumong calls it the samadhi of innocent play, infinite possibilities. An esteemed Zen master swinging the rice pail in the zendo, dancing, laughing, and calling out, "Where heavenly powers have free play, how could ships get together?" writes Sengo. Ships are moored, that is, anchored. This world is entirely at large, boundless, limitless in movement. There's another translation for this line. How can there be any approaching? How can anyone approach King Yu's teaching? In this world of one seamless existence, how could there be anyone or anything to approach? That line in the Heart Sutra, no hindrance of mind. There's nothing to hinder anything. Have you understood well? Asks Engo. Don't worry if you don't understand. Hear what you hear. See what you see. Let's listen one more time to the case. At each meal, Master King Yu himself would bring the rice pail to the front of the Zen hall, dance there, and laugh loudly, saying, "Dear Bodhisattvas, come and eat rice." This is unusual behavior. Masters in monasteries don't serve the meal. And there he is dancing about in the zendo, laughing loudly, addressing his monks in the most affectionate terms. Such a scene. It's said that King Yu did this at the midday meal every day for 20 years. Like Gute, whatever he was asked, he stuck up a finger. So what was King Yu doing? Secho adds a comment. Although he behaved in that way, he was not being kind. We might think King Yu simply couldn't contain himself. He is alive in the world of not one thing, of infinite freedom and boundless compassion. He's intimately at home in stillness, feasting on the dynamism of constant change, reveling in this world that is pouring itself out without the slightest gap. No one doing anything. The masters vividly describe this world. Tozan calls it riding upside down on an elephant while chasing a giraffe, the natural order. Unman writes a verse about a carp leaping up to the highest heaven and rain falling in torrents. Topsy-turvy freedom. Crazy, we might think. But really, there is no near or far, inside, outside. up, down. Dogen describes a frog on the ocean bottom eating porridge and a jeweled rabbit in the heavens washing the bowl. We think we know where we are in all of this vast universe. Really? One student who was working with Mu, deep into Mu, looked up in a moment and suddenly realized, I don't know where I am. Such wonder. Kingyu is full of joy and laughter. He shows this whole vast dancing, tumbling world to his monks. Dear bodhisattvas, come and eat rice. Come and eat dancing. Come and eat laughter. Come and feast on the very thing you seek. Here it is, right here, right there in what you're doing. What a limited grid we superimpose on the offering at hand. So why is this not kind? Kingyu presents the entire world. And the monks, if they see it, are totally absorbed, gone. They enter the gate of not to. When you really see what is before you, even just this computer screen, really see your separate self cannot survive. The master is what's known as a great thief, stealing away our constructs, the scaffolding. And he's also a trickster. One swinging rice pail, occupying everything. One laughter ringing out. Then there's this. You cannot ingest what is already yours to the full. That rice is your own body. The monks may be hungry. It's time for lunch. One of only 2 meals a day. Instead, Kingyu offers a living presentation of the true fact. One existence, monks, rice bucket, each one here. Kingyu calls out that there's something to come and get. But this feast is beyond eating. It's intimately you, without the slightest trace of separation. Catch a glimpse of this, and you cannot but see that we are entirely fed from the beginning, you could say. Sated, complete. And yet, what a joy to offer thanks and to share a meal. Yasutani Roshi writes, "You are way off the mark if you see Kingyu as simply acting in a show of good-natured kindness. This is a crafty dish which he sets before the monks. There is poison in that rice." Poison that can free us from what this tradition so knowingly calls the three poisons. This sense of greed, not enough, lack, I want, I need, of aversion or anger, I don't want, I get this away. It's protecting. And our ignorance, just not knowing who we truly are, what this life is. What a relief to realize, just to taste our true poverty. No assumptions, no judgments, nothing to defend, nothing to hold fast, nothing at all. Then opens a world of unbridled abundance, freedom, and ease. Your home, your own true home. It's an absolute imperative that Kingyu's laughter includes everything. Laughing, crying, hating, loving, being born, getting old, dying. Our ordinary life. What the Vimalakirti Sutra calls this Saha world, the world of illness and of wisdom, suffering and compassion, the world where we long to awaken, and awakening itself. In Kingyu's laughter, there's not the slightest separation. It's one world. That is real joy. Some 60 or 70 years later, a monk asks Master Choke. An ancient worthy said, "Dear Bodhisattvas, come and eat rice. What does it mean?" Choke said, "That is exactly like celebrating and giving thanks at the noonday meal." Exactly. Kingyu's behavior, odd as it may seem, is simply expressing joy and gratitude for the meal. One giving, receiving. This is exactly our preparing a meal. Maybe sharing it if you're sheltering with others. Watching the news of endless lines at food banks, shuttered school kitchens, empty shelves, and possibly making a donation. Exactly hoping for a new day and doing whatever we can to bring it about. Exactly the whole ordinary, extraordinary fact of this world, this life. It's the place of our practice, and it's inexhaustible. Rohatsu is coming. Before closing, I just want to mention one other instance of Vimalakirti's bowl of mercy handed on to us in Kingyu's dance. It's the bowl of rice milk offered to Siddhartha Gautama when he's dying of his austerities. Sujata, the young woman who would become a disciple of the Buddha, offers it. According to one tradition, she says, "May it give you as much joy to eat as it gave me to make." Another tradition says, given the chance to prepare the offering, Sujata danced with joy. One giving, receiving. This is our inheritance and ours to share. Dear Bodhisattvas, come and taste the feast.
I'm sorry to really sort of step in right after that beautiful talk, Valerie. So very, very deep. I mean, a treasury of all kinds of Zen wisdom in there. Just marvelous. Thank you so much. I wanted to actually just say that we're gonna. It was really just a word on our next retreat, actually, that I wanted to mention. That will be, we've got this winter solstice 4-day retreat in 2 weeks' time, Valerie and I, and basically, it's a kind of it's a retreat in which we'll be working with all the different elements of those original love retreats in a very free way. And so all that, those of you who've done any of those prior ones, it'll be kind of pertinent. You'll find elements of that. And those of you who haven't, you'll be steeped in these different levels of practice. From basic mindfulness and tending to our emotional well-being, all the way to the kind of glittering awakening Valerie was sharing. Dazzling, total awakening that Valerie was conveying very vividly, but not forgetting this sort of real basic need of practice to tend our well-being and our capacity to serve others in the most straightforward sort of way as well. And I will be participating in that and leading in that as well. So my sabbatical period is right after that. And it's not very long, 3 months will go by in an absolute flash. But anyway, next week, another Dharma talk on Thursday night, which I'll offer, special night. So please come if you can. Thank you very much. And Peg, back to you. Thanks so much. Valerie, thanks also hugely. Thank you, folks.